21, 24, 37. See you.
Okay. And it appears to be working on Facebook Live as well. Yep. Oh, because there's a delay. Okay.
You have a gate opener?
Oh, Richard.
Okay. It is 9:01 and we're still waiting for a few people to log in here. We have some people online and some people in person. We'll be getting started shortly. In the meantime, my name is Robert Gibson. I am currently the Vice Chairman of the San Benito County Planning Commission. I'm a fifth generation resident and a farmer. And I've enjoyed my time on the Planning Commission, and unexpectedly Jim Gillio resigned and I found myself running for the spot. My previous civic experience has been with the Yes on Measure G campaign, and that was the sales tax to repair our roads, which if you go around the county, you will see the signs and you will see road work occurring. My part in that was going with several other volunteers to the farmers market on a weekly basis and educating the public and changing their hearts and minds about an additional tax to repair our roads. And the campaign was successful with an almost 70% approval rate. As a farmer, we have a family-owned organic walnut farm. We've also diversified into various citrus, fruit trees, and row crop. My favorite being the heirloom tomatoes, and the watermelons can't be beat, in my humble opinion. I also work at a vineyard in Tres Pinos to occupy my time. In that position, I would have to remove myself from in order to fulfill the duties of the Board of Supervisor position. So thank you all for coming. I will check the waiting room one more time. Everyone that is waiting has been checked in. Are there any questions from the audience? Well, thank you for the coffee. I'll do it left-handed so that we see. Supporting local businesses, by the way, Suncoast is just up the road, and they have fantastic food if you haven't had the chance to pre-order and pick up on Fridays from 2 to 6. Okay, are we ready for a first question?
We are ready. Can you please state the ways that you have effectively advocated for diversity and inclusion in your career so far, and how you will work to improve equitability and diversity for all if you're elected into your position? We kind of want to know what diversity means to you and what you've done.
Diversity to me would mean that the workforce is similar in nature to the population. One thing from my previous experience, I was in restaurant management in Sparks, which is next to Reno, Nevada. And there was a young lady that was a busser, and because of her accent, she was shy and nervous, yet she had a family to support. And after I took over the management position, I worked with her to become a server so that she could have more income through tips. And part of that was giving her, one table and letting her give those guests great service. And finally, her confidence was building up. So I'd add another table and another table and another table. And she ended up being a very strong server. And, you know, that's one of the things that I was most proud of at that position, giving everyone a chance and encouraging those that have the ability, but perhaps not the confidence. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
And speaking of Suncoast, my position on the Planning Commission has allowed me to see how government can sometimes be an impediment to business. When their application was coming through the pipeline, there were some concerns made by some of the department heads. One of them being that they wanted a turn lane constructed. And if you've ever been out there, it's about a 12-foot drop off. So to construct a turn lane would have been prohibitive financially. And that position was changed before it ever came to the Planning Commission, because we suggested that it was just too onerous to have a small business build a turn lane and bring in all that dirt, not to mention they'd have to rip out quite a few of their olive trees to do that. There was also a suggestion by staff that the driveway be moved to realign with the Vineyard Estates ingress egress, and that would have also required a lot of expense, but also ripping out their fruit and olive trees, and that was nixed as well before it came to the Planning Commission, simply because it doesn't make sense to do those kind of things. And that's where I think that planning commissioners and board of supervisors have a duty to the businesses and to the people in their community to cut government red tape whenever possible.
You want to take the hours?
The hours for Suncoast Bakery, there's pre-order and pickup on Fridays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
No, the music hours.
Oh, the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. There was an issue with the permit as well. Some of the neighbors were not happy that they were going to have amplified music outdoors. And so they wrote a condition upon themselves to terminate the music. I believe it was at 7 p.m. And if you're going to have a dinner crowd, dinners usually don't end at 7. And during the public meeting, we had some great comments by the public, and we decided to get rid of that condition and have them abide by the county's noise ordinance, which I believe is 10 p.m. instead. So whenever we can remove conditions that are unnecessary, it's my belief that we should do it. When Swank Farms brought their farm-to-table barn before us, we had concerns from neighbors, and we also worked with the neighbors and the applicants, Swanks, and we had to delay the application by 30 days. It ended up going longer than that, but not because of members of the Planning Commission. It was delayed by the applicant so they could make changes, and the project became better. So it's just my belief that we need to do everything we can to support businesses coming here, as well as help businesses that are here expand. Thank you.
Thank you. And we had a question during the week of somebody who had called and asked about difficulty with an Uber driver. He runs a business and relies on Uber drivers to take his clients home at the end of the night from the bar.
So a question about SB 5. It was detrimental to a lot of businesses. A lot of trucking companies have gone out of business because of it. One of my neighbors and dear friends shuttered his business after many years because of SB 5. I don't know the motivation at the state level for it. It was an attempt, I would assume, at going after Uber and Lyft in order to defend the taxi companies. But it was not the best way to do it, and it was too broad, and it caused a lot of damage that was unnecessary, in my opinion. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is your attitude towards growth in San Benito County, Hollister, and San Juan Bautista?
Well, growth, as far as housing growth, is inevitable. People will continue to have children. Silicon Valley will continue to be a powerhouse, and people will come here for the cheaper living as opposed to Silicon Valley. The problem is management, getting the houses in the right area, also looking at multifamily housing as a solution. Instead of paving over all the farmland, if we were to build up instead of out, I think it would be better for the entire community, as well as protecting the farmland, because a lot of the farmland is right around the city of Hollister. So if we continue to build out instead of up, we're only hurting ourselves in the long run, and we're going to damage our agricultural businesses. And also part of that would be when the impact fees are redone, we need to use that to encourage multifamily over single family housing. Thank you for that question. Also, the question about no on K. I believe it's the citizens' right to redress the government for grievances. The problem with that initiative was that they were less than honest with what they were selling the public. The Betabel project is a great example of what this county needs. It is utilizing all the traffic that passes by 101. Most people don't even know San Benito County is over that hill. So what you'll be doing is people will be pulling off the road, they'll be buying gas, they'll be staying at the hotel if the hotel is built, and all those taxes will funnel into the county to help with our roads, hiring more deputies, fire personnel, ambulances, and there's little impact to our community. They'll pull off the highway, they'll do their business, they'll pull back on the highway and continue on their way. And that's part of why we need to focus on tourism. We have a wine industry, we have agritourism like the Piscinas Ranch and many others, and we're not utilizing those industries to get the tourist dollars. We also have two major parks, the Pinnacles National Monument and Hollister Hills Recreational Park. And there are over 500,000 people a year that come to those parks. And we're not doing anything in a meaningful way to capture any revenue from those tourists. So I think we need to work together as a community and focus on getting those people to not only come to our parks and enjoy them, but to stay for a weekend or come back for another weekend and enjoy some of our great wineries. Thank you.
The next question is about Gavilan College, and it alludes to they might have misused or misappropriated funds.
Yes, I've heard that there were some issues with the initial bonds. Some of the money was transferred to an out-of-county site, and I think it is only fair that the people of San Benito County get their money back for the campus that is supposed to be built on Fairview Road at Highway 25. And I don't think there's any question in the public's mind that those property taxes came from the county of San Benito, and that money needs to stay here. Passing a third bond, I don't think would be supported. The Gavilan board needs to give us our money back and get our campus built, because we already passed the two bonds and we're paying those property taxes. And that's an issue that the Board of Supervisors, I think, needs to come up with a consensus and direct county council to take care of the matter. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
And I have a question. How have you supported labor unions, and what will you do in your position to support organized labor? The county employees are a great asset to all of us. Everyone that is aware of our pay scale knows that we are significantly lower than surrounding counties. So what we're a lot of times facing is that employees will start working here, they'll get the training that they need, and then they will transfer to a different county, a surrounding county that pays significantly more. And we don't want to be a training ground. We want to keep the people that we have and train them and promote from within, in my opinion, because we do have a lot of great staff. I've worked with many staff members as my term on the Planning Commission, and they're dedicated, hard-working people, and we need to pay them enough to live comfortably in San Benito County and not have to live at Los Banos or somewhere that is more affordable. We need to pay people a living wage. I would say that I support unions. They offer transparency, advocacy for underrepresented workers, and they promote living wages for their members. Thank you for that question. And there are also, I see Valerie online there. Hi, Valerie. And she is with REACH. And there is a project by the high school for a regional park. And I think it would be a fantastic asset for the people of the community. There are not a lot of opportunities close to Hollister, where the bulk of the people live. And this park, if it were developed, would be a great asset. There's sports options. There's obviously the bike and pedestrian trail that should eventually stretch from, I believe, Tres Pinos to San Juan Bautista. And I think we as a county need to focus on developing that and investing in the future of the county. And Valerie is a strong advocate for our parks, and I appreciate her voice. And I think everyone should encourage the Board of Supervisors to support the regional parks, and all parks for that matter, as well as reopening San Justo Reservoir. It's one of the only fishing opportunities in the county. And unfortunately for a lot of local children, they have not been able to experience it because it has been closed for the past 8 to 10 years due to a zebra mussel infestation. And the federal government at this point, because the Department of Reclamation controls it, said that it could be another 8 years before it gets reopened. So the Board of Supervisors needs to work with Representative Panetta, Jimmy Panetta, and get the federal government to spend the $3 to $6 million in order to treat the zebra mussels and then get that site opened as soon as possible. Another 8 years is not an acceptable number to me. Also, for recreation, there's Clear Creek down in South County, and that has been closed for a long time because of asbestos issues. I think that needs to be reopened, and we need to work with Mr. Panetta to get that open as soon as possible as well. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. The next question is, it's likely that our local governments will be facing a prolonged period of extreme austerity. Given that, tell us what your budget priorities lay. Where do you see room for reduction, and what projects, funds, and staff do you regard as non-negotiably essential?
Well, the good thing about San Benito County is we don't rely on tourism tax dollars. We rely mostly on property taxes, and that number hasn't changed. So we're not facing huge shortfalls. The problem is that our roads and the county employees need more funding, and we need to bring in more sources. There's the cannabis permits that have been working slowly through the government machine. Those need to be pushed through the Planning Commission and approved sooner rather than later so that we can get those tax dollars and that ag business working. We also need to expand our tourism and our hotel industry and get the TOT taxes rolling in. There are a lot of opportunities for funds that would benefit the community and not require more taxes on the existing residents. And that's what we need to focus on. California is one of the highest tax states in the nation, and we just cannot add more taxes to the existing people. We need to think outside the box and get money from others. Also along those lines, I believe firmly that we should hire, at a minimum to begin with, one full-time grant writer for the entire county, possibly sharing the grant writer with San Juan Bautista, some of the smaller water districts, etc., and get our fair share of state and federal funding that we're currently not going after in a meaningful way. There are millions and millions of dollars. Monterey County gets about 20 million a year, I believe. The city of Monterey, I believe, is closer to 10 million. there are a lot of, City of Monterey, I'm sorry, 21 million. There are a lot of opportunities for construction, law enforcement. Mute. There we go. I'm back. Another topic, and this is a perfect example, is the internet infrastructure in our county. It is weak, and there are federal funds available to get the backbone of the internet much higher quality and more broadband strength. And that would be not only for residents, but for industrial uses as well, to get the tech companies to bring jobs to San Benito County so that we can pull those 12,000 commuters off Highway 25 and 156. And that is also a priority, is to get our zoning and general plan issues in order, as well as hiring senior planning staff and streamlining the commercial permitting process to bring the jobs to the county. And the impediments are obviously not having the correct staff, not having the processes efficient, and not having lands already entitled for commercial industrial. And that will be a focus of my position on the Board of Supervisors. I've been working on it as a planning commissioner, but I want to continue that as a Board of Supervisor and make sure that it gets done. And the sooner the better, in my opinion. Plenty of people are tired of commuting. And although I don't commute, my two brothers commute to the San Jose area every day. And it's a very long day. It takes away from your family life and the quality of your life. And we need to do more to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about CSAs. The CSAs were an issue that Jim Gillio and Mark Medina and others worked on. Property owners paid into the CSAs for services. There were issues with the previous RMA director and his beliefs of how the monies should be used. And if you're not familiar, it's for neighborhoods, unincorporated area, neighborhoods in the unincorporated area of the county, such as Stonegate, Union Heights, and others. And they pay additional taxes for roads and storm runoff, etc. And those monies had not been utilized. And Jim Gillio and others prompted the RMA to provide those funds for the CSAs to fix the roads. And we need to focus on that. And I think there needs to be a monthly reporting to the board of how those funds are being collected and used, because those are taxpayer monies. And I believe that the taxpayers should be kept aware of what's happening. And not just for CSAs, in general. Communication regarding budgets are essential for people to understand where all the money goes, because there's a lot of questions about where did the impact fees go and how much was collected, because people don't understand how expensive projects are. So we need to give reports, perhaps on a quarterly basis or biannual basis, to the people and let them know what's happening with all those monies, because it's not disappearing into thin air. It's there and it's being used, but it's not being communicated to the people, and that needs to change. And I plan on using email newsletters and Facebook and Instagram and every other source of online information sharing. So right now, the county, they're working on roads all around the county, but the RMA is working on Cienega Road, portions of it, and portions of Southside Road, which are District 4 roads, those that I'll touch on. So granite ground up sections of the road, and after the roads were ground up, learned that there was a statewide shortage of material. So the roads have been sitting in a less than acceptable condition for about 6 weeks, waiting for the materials to become available. I had business owners such as DeRose and Cienega complain about the quality of the roads, and I honestly hadn't been up there in a few months. maybe a month. So I emailed the RMA director and asked what could be done to temporarily fix those roads, because we don't want accidents or damage to people's cars. The RMA director, Harry Mavrogenis, got back to me the following day. He said that they will have engineers go out there and assess the issue. And by the end of that week, Granite had gone out and patched the roads so that that was not quite as rough on the vehicles. And I want to thank Harry for his quick work on that, as well as the county staff that assessed the road conditions. Thank you for that question. Okay. And discussing communication, it's been an issue. One department doesn't know what perhaps another department's doing. The citizens certainly don't know what the departments are doing. And I would like a designated staff member or two from each department to be the public information officer and disseminate what's happening. I think it's important for the residents to be kept up on various activities in the county. I see we have a new website that was finally rolled out. I think it's still, the bugs are still being worked out, but it is a step in the right direction. I think we need to invest in technology, not only for the public interface, but as well as the departmental interfaces. For instance, the planning department could invest in software that would allow plans and other documents to be e-filed, and then they're more readily available to members, not only members of the public, but the applicant themselves. You would have a check system, and you'd be able to see what documents you need to get submitted, where your timeline is, and across all departments there are software packets available that would allow better use of staff time, but also more efficiency. Thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you. What are the what priority programs would you preserve to deal with the severe budget cuts that are almost sure to be coming?
Well, there may be budget cuts, but like I stated earlier, we're not relying on tourism dollars or anything that has been affected by the COVID shutdowns. There may be minor issues, but it won't require any cuts. We do have reserves. So I don't anticipate the county having to cut any programs at this point. Thank you for that question. Are there other questions from the public?
Yes. Can you please talk about the Betabel Road project?
Betabel, yes. That project would benefit pediatric cancer research, and I think it's a fantastic project. Not only will it benefit pediatric cancer research, but it will provide folks driving on 101 an opportunity to pull off the road, get some gas, get some food, stay in the hotel. It will also provide the residents of San Benito County with tax funds to better service, fixing our roads, hiring deputies, etc. There will also be a tourism kiosk at that facility, and that will be used to highlight all the assets of our community, such as our wine trail, our parks, recreation. San Justo Reservoir is a fishing opportunity when that gets reopened. Clear Creek, Hollister Hills. The mission, our mission is beautiful, the San Juan mission, and that kiosk will highlight what we have to offer. And I didn't understand that last question.
I don't know if you would know. The question that came out was, will there be hookups to charge cars at the Betabel project?
That the question was, will there be hookups for electric cars at Betabel? That I do not know. I could find out from the developer. I have not heard through planning whether or not that will be an option.
Thank you.
Okay, so as any resident in the county knows, there is a shortage of law enforcement and first responders in general, firefighters, ambulances. And part of fortifying our financial situation is to be able to provide more deputies, more fire folks, and hiring additional ambulances. And I think that that needs to also be a cornerstone for the Board of Supervisors to focus on, because we need to provide support for a community. In a small town just south of Hollister, a few days ago at 3 a.m, there were a group of people outside a home, and they were apparently going to enter the home before the residents heard what was happening and scared them off. And on some evenings in the county, there are only 2 to 3 deputies out, and it's a very large county. And we need to increase our staff back to the 2008 levels before the recession. And that's something that we need to focus on getting funding for. The sheriff has his hands full, and we need to help him. We need to get more deputies out there. Aromas and San Juan also need additional help. San Juan currently pays for 1 deputy, but I believe that we should provide more services for that side of the county as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the part-time or full-time for the board. It's currently part-time. I think that the residents deserve full-time representation. And the salary study that the board will be reviewing shortly also recommends that it be a full-time position. Most of the board members, I know most of them, and they put in between 40 and 60 hours a week. So by default, it's a full-time position, and I think anybody running for the position should dedicate themselves fully to the board and not have other issues. I would also, on top of that, I would also say that my position is that not only would I run for this 2-year term, but I would run for a minimum of 2 4-year terms as well. I think we need continuity. I don't think right now that just running for a 2-year term would be beneficial for the community. On top of that, I would also support term limits. I think that if you cannot get the job done with 3 4-year terms, that it's time to step aside and let someone else with fresh ideas, perhaps more energy, take the lead. And this is not a new position. I held that in the early 2000s when I ran for District 3. I fully support term limits at all levels of government. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. And then we had received a question last night about the housing development in which they're building homes behind it. And
oh, yes, there was a question about a housing development on Enterprise Road. And the residents of the existing development adjacent to the new development were concerned about the road connection through their existing development. They were afraid it would become a raceway. And as a member of the Planning Commission, I shared their concerns. I was only able to secure that the road would be restricted and not a full lane. It's something that the residents and myself will have to keep an eye on to make sure that that restriction is held during the final mapping process. But we need to listen to the residents' concerns. I understand there's also concerns for fire safety, but we can come together and work as a community so that everyone comes out a winner. And it's just about negotiation and compromise.
How would that restriction help?
Well, the restriction would basically be that it would be a one-way road. And if the direction of the one-way road is in the correct direction, then it will not be a raceway for the people in the existing community. And I understand the fire department's position. With all the major fires we've had, they want as many routes in and out of developments as possible. And that is why we came to the conclusion that would be an open road, not a gated road, but in order to keep it from being a raceway, we restricted the width of the road.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I already touched, I think the last time on Swank Farms. It was a application that came before the Planning Commission, but it's worth mentioning again. A great opportunity for the county. They are building a beautiful barn out on their facility off of 156 in Fairview, and it will host farm-to-table dinners with local wines involved, which is fantastic. Local farmers, vegetables, and beef and whatnot. Hopefully some of the pork and the lamb from Piscinas Ranch as well. And it will invite people from the Monterey area and other areas to come and enjoy the fruits and the bounty of San Benito County. We have a lot of great offerings for agriculture. We've always been an agricultural community, and we always will be. Technology may be changing things, but there is no reason that agriculture can not be a cornerstone of this community. There is a question. Speaking of developments, what are your thoughts on the proposed community on the Lima property? The Vintage by Richland Communities. Thank you for the question. It is a rather large project that is being proposed next to Ridgemark, between Ridgemark and Tres Pinos. Housing is a tricky thing. We need to balance the cost of housing. If you do not allow housing growth, you're driving the cost of purchasing a house and you're driving rents up. So we need to find a happy medium. That project is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 homes proposed. I believe it's about 800 market rate, and the remaining would be senior living. I need more information before I could say whether or not I would fully support the project. I know that their intention is to build a new Southside school. The existing school is small and cannot serve the existing residents. However, I think there could be changes made to the project to make it more palatable to the community. But that topic needs to be discussed. So there need to be concessions made by the developer to make it the best development that we can get. There is some commercial that they are proposing as well, and I think that is a fantastic idea to keep people from driving all the way to Hollister for minor odds and ends. If you can keep them there and keep them off the roads, that's even better. And the seniors would the senior units would be a fantastic addition because we need more senior housing. People don't want to stay in a 4-bedroom home after the children have left the nest per se and they're retired. I think having more senior developments around the county would be a fantastic addition. Thank you for that question. And if you have other questions regarding that, you can feel free to email or call me after the Zoom meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I don't know if you want to take a moment and sip your coffee because I did refresh.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It's getting a little dry.
And then our next
Tastes good.
When managing public agencies, is it better to have more employees at a modest wage or a few employees at a wage high enough to attract quality applicants?
Well, I think we definitely need to increase our wage to not only encourage better applicants per se, but also to reward the employees that have been with us and are staying with us at our reduced wages. I don't think there's a need that people need to live multiple families in a single household or county employees. I know of some are no longer with us because they couldn't afford it, but they were commuting to Los Banos because that's where the housing was affordable. I also think that the county has, speaking of housing, has the ability to build workforce housing. We have property that would, in my opinion, be perfect to get workforce housing built. And while we're talking about that, we could also transition to affordable housing. I think that we could work with some of the nonprofits and with grant funds, purchase the properties, turn those over to the nonprofits and let them build affordable housing. Because the current formula for affordable housing is 15% or 20% offsite for market rate housing. So if you build 100 market rate homes, 15 of those have to be affordable. The problem is that 85 of those are market rate, and we're not serving the people that need the help the most. And as far as the extremely low, very low, and low income bracket, we're doing a horrible job. Not that we're alone. The entire state is doing a horrible job, but we need to focus on building affordable rental units as well. And I think with hiring the grant writer and going after those funds, using county funds, leveraging those, I think we can do a better job for those folks that need the help the most. Because it is an expensive, as everyone knows, it's an expensive state to live. We are less expensive than some of the surrounding counties, but if your children or grandchildren have to leave the area in order to not only find work, but be able to afford a home, to me, that's not acceptable. And we have to do something to change that formula. And now, not 10 years down the road, we need to do things now. And working with the Board of Supervisors, I believe that we could accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, are county land use regulations and permitting processes doing enough to assure the public interest, or are they too onerous?
The processes, especially the commercial, could be streamlined in my opinion, and as well as using technology to make the process more transparent. As I stated earlier, there are programs available where you can upload all of your information into the system. It would also provide access not only for the residents to see what's happening, but for the applicant themselves. Currently, you have to call in, and the counter staff spends most of their time answering phone calls or making copies for Freedom of Information Act requests. If that information was available to the public, we would free up a lot of staff time, and we would also make things easier for residents to be able to check. It's onerous right now to try to do that kind of thing with the county. And I think if we were to invest in the technology, it'd be worth it. It would also free up staff time. And I think the efficiencies would pay for themselves. There was another question about protecting ag land. Well, currently that's a state issue. The state has put together a map. And if you want to develop on what the state deems ag land, you have to buy development rights on a 1-for-1 acre ratio. And it means, and basically it means in 50 years that half the ag land could be gone based on that. But the problem is it doesn't really protect the ag land. It's more just shifting a cost burden to a developer. And I think that, you know, we could do more with those funds locally, but it's a challenge to try to get the state to change how they're doing things. But the San Benito County Agricultural Land Trust is doing a great job, and I support their efforts trying to protect our farmland, especially our prime farmland. But the maps themselves are flawed. They're made at the state level, and there's a housing project up above me, and it was deemed ag land, and it hasn't been farmed other than for hay, but it hasn't been farmed in recent history. And there are some lands off of Buena Vista, which is rich farmland, that were not on the map. So it's a flawed system. And if we continue to do it, perhaps we should be working as a county with our state representatives to get that map changed to be more accurate. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Wine tasting. Oh, yes. Little reminders. Part of being a planning commissioner and also the board of supervisor is encouraging new businesses to come here, but also to help existing businesses expand. one of the issues that we came across as a planning commissioner, these folks wanted to open up a wine tasting room on Cienega Road. And part of the process, one of the departments wanted them to put in a commercial sewage system. And their plan was only to have 25 people one weekend a month. And the new system was just very, very expensive for what they wanted. And we managed to work with the county staff, and we delayed that commercial sewage system until it was necessary. And I think that that's what we need to focus on for any applicant, is to make things more economically feasible for them so that they can open their businesses here in San Benito County. And in particular along the wine trail, there's a lot that we could do, in my opinion, to streamline the permit processes and get the infrastructure and facilities we need to encourage tourism in our county. Thank you. I have one more question here. Oh, okay. So in the coming days and weeks, I'll be posting short videos on specific projects and concepts that I believe are important to the county. So if you watch Facebook or Instagram, and perhaps the webpage, robertgibsonforsupervisor.com, we'll have short videos on specific subjects. And if you have questions, feel free to email them in to me at robertgibsonforsupervisor.com, and I'll make a short video so that the general public can also get that question answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions out there? Feel free to submit them on chat. I believe that I received one on Zoom chat. Here's another.
I just posted it.
Oh, okay. The email's there. There's a great question about cooperation between the local governments. I think we could do a better job between the County of San Benito, the City of Hollister, and the City of San Juan. Also think that the planning commissions could work together and have a more unified concept of what our general plans would look like working together. As a planning commissioner, I attempted to install an ad hoc committee with the 3 planning commissions involved in the county and was unsuccessful. I think as a board of supervisor, that issue could be pushed and that we could work together, not only for planning, but government in general. That one hand should know what the other hand's doing. And as far as housing growth, I think it would be beneficial to the entire community that we work together and try to figure out where the different housing types should be built and focus on the multifamily housing as well. Thank you.
I typed that just a minute.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
While we're waiting for the next question, I will say, people ask, why should I vote for you? Well, I've had 2 years roughly on the planning commission. I was hoping to have many more, not realizing, what was going to happen in the future. But I can say that I am the only candidate running that has local government experience. I've worked with a number of departments, and not only my capacity as a planning commissioner, but as a resident, I've wanted to be informed of certain issues. I'm the only candidate that openly supports having a full-time position, 40 to 60 hours a week. And the only candidate that I know of that is willing to commit to more than a single 2-year term. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. I do have, so a person had talked to me when I went around the community, and they wanted to know, they have a business. They requested to make changes to their business, and they were denied, or there was a lot of red tape around it. But upon speaking to another business owner, a friend of theirs, they found that a very similar or same plan had been approved easily,
Oh,
and they wanted
okay.
to know how they could, what
Well,
they should do to report that, or
I think the question was whether there's equitability in planning processes and permit issuance. And I think that's part of transparency. And if there is an issue and you feel you're being treated unfairly, if it's a planning issue, contact the planning commissioner or your board of supervisor. Would be a good start. I don't know the specifics of that issue, but I think a good start is to contact your board of supervisor or your planning commissioner and let them know what's happening. I do have a question on chat here. How would you support the county library and its services offered to the community? That is a fantastic question.
that's Tammy.
Yes.
Gotta be Tammy.
We definitely need to support the library. While technology has changed and books are not quite as popular as they used to be, people still need a place to focus on their homework or their work. In the case of modern technology, you can work from home or work from the library. I think it's a fantastic investment. I do, however, believe that the city of Hollister should be paying a higher share than they currently are. They're actually paying very little, and the population center is in Hollister. So I think that we need to negotiate with the city and have them pay more. But it's a safe place for kids to hang out after school. There's a lot of opportunity with technology to let people utilize it. It is free. There are bilingual services and online classes available there. So it's a great asset. I believe that we need to invest in modernizing the existing library or perhaps constructing a new one in the future when we find funding. Part of that goes back to having a full-time grant writer. There are funds that are available, and we're just not going after them because we lack the staff to do it. They also have the bookmobile, and currently they're offering pickup services because of the current health crisis we're facing. So that it is definitely an asset worth keeping and investing in. I appreciate that question. That's a new question that I haven't heard before. Thank you, Tammy.
We only
Okay,
have about
so
7 minutes
so
left.
from the library, they're looking for a new location, and I think it's best to have it downtown because that's where the core of the people are, and we could work with the city and the friends of the library to find that location, and again, grant funding would be the best solution to either build a new library or revitalize the existing library. Thank you. And it looks like we're running out of time. Wow. This one went by quickly, and I want to thank everybody for coming. And just to reiterate why I'm doing this and why you should vote for me, it is because I'm honest, dedicated. I spend the time in research. I'm fair and balanced. I'm open to hearing others' point of view. I don't believe that I know everything, so I'm willing to listen. And oftentimes my mind can be changed if you have the information to share with me. I have deep ties to the community. As I said before, I'm a 5th generation resident and a farmer. And I love our community. I think, however, we need to change with the times and not do things the way we've always done them. Sorry, the chickens are clucking in the background. They must be laying eggs. I support businesses, and I want to reduce as much red tape as we can. I think we need to encourage new businesses as well as help existing businesses expand. I think we're failing in both of those categories right now, and I want to change that. And I am always open and available. If you have questions, you can always call, text, email, Facebook message. I'll be more than happy to meet you if you'd prefer that in person. It's always a nice way to meet. And the benefit of voting for me is that there would be no learning curve. I am well aware of how the county operates and the issues that we face. And I've worked with staff before, so I'd be able to hit the ground running on day one. And that is an advantage that I have over all the other candidates. And I want to thank you for your time and encourage you to look for videos that are upcoming regarding specific issues. And if you would like to volunteer, there are phone calls to be made, deliveries, perhaps door-to-door visiting, social media, fundraisers, content producers, photographers, videographers. There are a lot of ways to do that. We could also use donations. Running a campaign isn't cheap. I have contributed, family has contributed, close friends have contributed. And if you can, I would ask you to donate, whether it be $10, $50, whatever the amount, I would appreciate it to help the cost of signs and mailers, etc. And feel free to like us on social media, Instagram and Facebook, I believe, are our social media. Oh, we also have YouTube. And feel free to check out our website at robertgibsonforsupervisor.com. Call me at 831-529-8001. And again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and submitting your questions. And I look forward to the next time. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.